Hi, Chris here from the Financial Bishop, where we make personal finance easy and accessible for everyone. Have you ever found yourself mindlessly scrolling through Amazon only to find that, those couple things that you've really been wanting and feeling like, hey, I've got money sitting around in my checking account, I can afford this. And then just click, and you've purchased more than a couple $100s worth of stuff. At the end of the month, you wonder, how the heck did I spend that? Well, me too. It's kind of a common problem. And I think some of it stems from the false sense of security that just having cash lying around gives us. And so today, what I'd like to talk about are a couple key things that I think will help us along our financial journey. One of those is shifting our mindset from a savings mindset to an investing mindset. And what do I mean by a savings mindset? Well, a savings mindset is one where you have comfort and obtain comfort by having a chunk of money in a savings account or a checking account so that you can spend it. That's what I would call a fixed mindset. But a growth mindset or a investing mindset is one where you put your money to work so that it actually produces money for the lifestyle that you want. And those are two very different mindsets. The savings mindset, where it tries to hoard cash, and the investing mindset, where it pushes that money out so that it can actually make money for you. This gets at the heart of opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is the opportunity to have done one thing over another. The opportunity to have purchased one thing instead of purchasing another. All purchasing is an opportunity cost. You could have used that money somewhere else. And so to think like a wealthy person would be one who is strategizing ways to make their money work for them instead of saving money to then deplete it. A wealthy person thinks, how can I utilize the money that I have to then generate more money so that I can continue to maintain the lifestyle that I have, or to obtain an even different lifestyle than I currently have. And I think one of the best motivating strategies that we can implement is to infuse our money with purpose. What do I mean by that? Well, if you have a chunk of change lying around and you really don't have a real meaning for that, it doesn't have a purpose, doesn't have a goal, then it's really easy to actually spend that money. But if I have money invested with a very particular goal, and in that goal there's an emotional purpose behind it, I'm far less likely to spend it, and I'll be far more disciplined in obtaining that goal. So for example, maybe it's my goal to become financially independent in 10 years so that I can spend more time with my nephews and nieces. That's a great purpose. Like that is a fantastic goal. And if I infuse my investments, certain investments, with that purpose, then I will be far more motivated to obtain that goal. And there's different ways to do that. I can invest using a brokerage account and just purchasing maybe a 50% VTSAX Vanguard Total Stock Market and 50% short-term treasuries. Another way would be to give each particular fund that I have a particular purpose and goal. So maybe I have one bond fund for my car or a future car purchase. Maybe I have a iShares ITOTE, the iShares Total Market Fund And that fund particularly is for vacations. And so you just create a basket of different funds for different purposes. Either way, I've infused that money, that chunk of money, with a particular purpose, with a particular goal. And so, taken together, these will help us stay motivated and encourage us not to become just mere savers, but investors so that we can reach our financial independence. So what I'd like to do is pop over to a spreadsheet and kind of show you some of the numbers behind that, and then we'll come back here. So I logged into the Google Drive and created a spreadsheet called Giving Your Money a Purpose. So there's a couple ways in which you could kind of conceptualize this. I was talking to my brother the other day, and he and I were kind of going back and forth. And I think one method that might help is to think of it in baskets. So for example, here we have our stock ticker, and each fund has a particular purpose. And so these are hypothetical numbers here. So let's say my monthly expense, the purpose for this money here is to pay for my monthly cash expenses, insurance needs, and those kinds of things. Well, and when is it that I need it? I need it in 10 years, because my goal is to step away from work and be able to spend time with my kids during that stage of life. And so, and again, this is hypothetical, but then I can conceptualize just putting all of the money that I have for that particular purpose into that fund. And maybe I have specific healthcare needs, and so I want to put into the iShares, total stock market fund, 30,000 initially, and then again, my goal is in a 10-year period to have enough money to pay for that. And you're probably asking yourself, well, how do I know how much I need? Well, going back to our video on single expense financial independence, we've broken down each category by monthly expense, and then took it to the annual expense, and then using a 3% withdrawal rate, and you can see my formula there. We took the annual and multiplied that by 33 point, and then there's 7 threes there. This is the amount of money that we need for toiletries, for gas, entertainment. And you notice that it produces more money than the annual need is. And that is because we are not withdrawing the full amount that it's producing, so that the money can go back in and reinvest, so that during years where the market doesn't do so well, we can still safely withdraw 3% and assume that in perpetuity that we will have enough money to pay for these individual items. Now, if you have cyclical needs, so for example, let's say I have an iPhone and I want to get an upgrade every 2 months, or every 2 years rather. And so we take $1,000 and divide it by 24 months, 2 years, and that gives us the monthly expense. Then we take that and multiply it by 12 to get the annual. And then we do just like we did before. We take it and multiply that by 33.33. And the beauty of this is actually you'll do a little or slightly better, hopefully, just because you're not actually withdrawing the initial principal on the annual. You're actually leaving that in. So there's a slight added bonus there. And you'll notice that depending on the time frame will depend the amount of money you need as well. So even though I need $25,000 for the new car, that is in a 10-year period. There we go. 120 months, 10-year period. And so that ends up being actually slightly less than my camera gear need that I use
upgrade every 3 years, so 36 months. And so depending on how long the life cycle is, depends on how much money you need ultimately to, in perpetuity, be able to continue purchasing those goods. So going back to our little spreadsheet here. So if you can think about giving your money a purpose, you can split it up with individual stocks and bonds, bond holdings. If as you're getting closer, for example, and in this scenario where my camera gear, I've got half of the money in the short-term treasury bond and then half in the large cap index admiral. And as you get closer to your purchase date, hopefully you'll start moving money over into the short-term treasury. The other option down here is that you lump it all together. Maybe you just have one fund, one of those. Maybe it's iTote and VGSH, which is the Vanguard Short-Term Treasury. So only two funds, but you've divvied it up on paper so that your total is split between these, right? What's really nice about this is I don't have to deal with as many funds, and so that makes it super easy. But there is a psychological benefit. When we purchased our car, we used a bond fund, and just the only thing that we had for that bond fund was for the car. It was the bond fund for the car, and that made it super easy to just to have it visualized there and to say, hey, this fund is for this particular purpose. It's really just up to you and what your preference is. You can kind of figure out which one works best for you. If you can parse out that lump sum of money and don't see it as 100,000, but hey, I've got 15,000 for my camera gear, and really that's that you're not stealing money from one area to pay for the other, then I think it's probably simpler to do this method down here. But if you're a little less disciplined, it may be important to just parse it out and say, okay, I'm going to have this fund. iTote is for my healthcare needs. This VGSH, the Vanguard Short-Term Treasury Index, that is for my car. And I'm not, that money is only for that, and that fund is only for that purpose. It really just depends on your level of discipline. I have additional funds over here with the notes there, and I will put the link to this spreadsheet in the show notes. You can download it. You won't be able to edit it, but once you download it and make a copy, you can edit it as well. And I have the single expense financial independence form in there from the previous video, and I'll put a link to the show notes in that as well as the cyclical needs. And you can, it is based off of the amount of months, and so I kind of explain there what's going on, and you can just kind of plug in your own cyclical needs and your own cash needs and monthly expenses, and kind of figure out what you need. But again, the purpose of all of this is to narrow down, it's to give your money a purpose and recognize the opportunity cost. If you do not put your money to work and you just put it in a savings account, you're tempted to spend it. It's not making you money in the same way that investments can. It really is a lost opportunity. And so, it's important to have a 6 months emergency savings. Sure, absolutely. But beyond that, additional money outside of that really needs to go immediately into investing. Don't be tempted to keep it in your checking account because you're going to be tempted to spend it. It's so easy to log into Amazon and look at that long list that, oh yeah, I forgot it. I needed that, or I wanted that. And before you know it, you've spent down a lot of your savings. And again, we need to move our mindset to a more strategized way of thinking. And this is what wealthy people do. They think about the strategy that they're using to for their money so that it can be best used to create additional funds and produce the money that is needed for your lifestyle.
So today we talked about opportunity costs. We talked about thinking about our money differently in a more strategic manner. And we talked about, most importantly, giving our money a purpose, designating our money for a particular end goal. If you don't have it attached to an end goal, it's so much easier to overspend, to have that money hanging out in the checking account and say, well, I've got this money. I deserve this. I can buy that. And yes, you can. However, you also have to recognize that there's an opportunity cost involved. You are trading one set of goods for another set of potential goods. The goods that I would argue are far better is the asset, the money that can actually produce the lifestyle that you want in perpetuity. And again, this all goes back to freedom, and it goes back to the choices that you want to make and doing them intentionally, so that it's kind of like eyes wide open. You are making these decisions knowing that there is an actual trade-off. It's not done on a whim, but very intentionally done. And so in order to obtain freedom, the ability to spend time with your loved ones when you want, and visit them on long holidays, and go to your son or your daughter's soccer game. All of those can be open to you in perpetuity, as it were, if you allow yourself to be intentional now, so you can invest and to move away from a savings mindset that won't actually provide the best strategy to obtain financial independence. The best strategy for financial independence is to increase the investment rate, not necessarily your savings rate. Saving is great, and it's important to have a 6-month emergency fund, but beyond that, and you really need to consider moving that money out of that checking account into investments. And if you're super nervous about that, you can easily, one thing that I've found that's been helpful is to invest in short-term treasuries, and kind of a 50-50, short-term treasuries and total stock market index fund. And so it's really up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Personal finance is personal. I'm just sharing what I have found to be helpful in my own life. So if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, and hit subscribe below, and check out some of my other videos. Good luck on your financial independence journey.